¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. Welcome, everybody. How's it going, Michael Hassler? Today, we definitely have quite the amount of stuff to go through. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Mind you.
Oh
But
my
they don't
god,
exist-
stop it. Sheesh. Jesus.
They don't teach you.
Sorry, folks. I've been like loading up clips. So I did not mean to do that. Welcome. Echo Resto Dragon, how's it going? Let me see if we have anything else. Okay. I think we got everything. All right, folks. Let's get started with, I think we should do this video first. Oh, actually, I think, just as a quick, comment, for those of you who didn't see, Trump's major announcement, no, it was not his announcement for anything related to the campaign. It was not his vice president running mate, nothing like that. No. It was much better. Much better. Electronic cards, collectible cards. Yeah. Sold at like $99 a pop. $99 a pop. So, yeah, that was the major announcement, folks. Yeah, give me your money. Exactly. The fleecing continues, folks. The fleecing continues. All right, let's start with this one.
The vaccine has saved tens of millions of people throughout the world.
And you would think that there would be a reduction
in excess mortality, and there just wasn't.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is now setting the stage for his fight against Donald Trump with what appears to be the first political difference that he's going to make a focus of what I assume will eventually be his campaign for 2024. So first off, it's important to point out here that Ron DeSantis has not officially announced that he's running for 2024, but as I'll get to some polling here, now is his opportunity. If he wants to become president, now would be the time to try. So before I get to how he is differentiating himself here, and you saw a bit of that in the opening clip, the polling here is incredible because there really now is a clear pattern of Ron DeSantis doing better than Trump in these polls. So there's already been, I've covered several of these polls already, but it's now becoming a consistent theme. There was one from this month showing him with a massive lead over Trump in Florida, which shouldn't be all that surprising considering Ron DeSantis is Florida's governor.
Yeah.
But you also have these numbers nationally showcasing him.
Yeah, but also, like, doesn't Trump also have, like, that kind of advantage in Florida, or had that kind of advantage in Florida? Off topic, Trump NFT trading cards, only $99. Yeah, we commented slightly on that. That was the big announcement. So, yeah, that's pretty funny.
His popularity against Donald Trump. So as Axios writes here, DeSantis beat Trump 52 to 38% in a hypothetical contest between the two GOP leaders among likely Republican primary voters, a Wall Street Journal poll released Wednesday found.
So
among Republicans
furthermore,
who say they're...
I didn't see this article. I didn't see this article, so there's like a continuation of this trend that it seems like DeSantis, at least on paper, theoretically could beat Trump in a primary. And that should scare the bejesus out of everybody. Alio with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. The fact that DeSantis is this far ahead in what seems to be several polls, we went over just one of them, but it seems to be like a trend. It should scare the bejesus out of everybody. Because as I said, if DeSantis does throw his hat in the ring, he does have a higher chance of winning the general election than a Trump candidacy would. So that's uncomfortable. Not good. Not good.
Are likely to vote in the GOP primary. 86% said they viewed DeSantis favorably, compared to 74% saying the same of Trump, the Wall Street Journal found. Another poll out this week by USA Today, Suffolk University, found Trump's GOP support wavering. 31%
that's what we
of
went
Republican and Republican-leaning voters said they want Trump to run, while 61% say they prefer another Republican nominee who would support the same policies as the former president, per the USA Today poll. That poll found Republicans and Republican-leaning voters prefer DeSantis over Trump 56 to 33%. So we're not talking about 1 or 2 percentage points here. We're talking about now just massive leads for DeSantis over Trump nationally. Now, the race really hasn't started. There haven't been any real back and forths in terms of DeSantis, attacking Trump with clear language. Trump has attacked DeSantis, here and there, but it hasn't been that strong.
Ron DeSanctimonious.
Haven't really seen any, campaigning by either of them, though Trump, of course, had that one announcement speech and kind of disappeared since then. But I'm just saying that because a lot can change, right? Trump, I think, still has the charisma that DeSantis doesn't. A lot of Trump's ongoing popularity and support from his base is because he is essentially a right-wing comedian. DeSantis, I don't think, has anywhere near the kind of charisma that Trump does. So a lot of these numbers can change once both figures are out sort of battling against each other. But for now, the data is beginning to clearly support Ron DeSantis. And that also goes to a general election. So it's important to mention here. I would prefer Trump win the nomination over DeSantis. And this
Yes. David Dole is completely correct here. Look, as I said, DeSantis, while it may not be, a big edge, but he does have a better shot at winning the general election. He does. So that's what's terrifying, folks. DeSantis needs to start committing more felonies in full view of the public if he wants to secure his position, though. True. And then go on the record to say that his voters would still vote for him. But yeah, this is some worrying numbers over here, especially considering that the Democratic Party seems to have decided to run Joe Biden again. Ideally, we see a Trump-Biden rematch, which heavily favors Biden. So that's fun. That's fine. But a DeSantis v. Biden matchup, not good. Not good.
is the main reason. DeSantis here, 47% to Joe Biden at 43%. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, 40% to Biden at 47%. Ron DeSantis, the clear favorite here, somebody, as I've said in the past, a lot of people outside Florida don't really know much about him. Of course, if you follow politics closely, you're well aware, but most people don't follow it closely. So DeSantis has the ability to sort of morph his image with this clean slate nationally, whereas Trump, most people already have an opinion of Trump. It isn't going to change. DeSantis has the ability to grow his support the more that he gets out there.
I've been thinking a lot about the
And also, this is from
Hey, Bipedal, how's it going? DeSantis wouldn't win the primary against Trump. I don't know anymore if that's, if you asked me that question a couple of months ago, I would say, yeah, 100%. Trump would just wipe the floor with any contender. But now, nah, I don't know. I mean, like, in an ideal scenario, it would be a very, very bloody primary where Trump wins and then gets completely floored in the general election. That's the ideal scenario. That's the ideal outcome in this particular situation. The ideal outcome is that they have a really, really bloody primary. Trump wins, and then Trump gets completely floored in the general election. That's pretty much like the ideal scenario.
this is recently as well from
But I'm not sure
a CNN
anymore.
poll. About 6 in 10 Republicans and Republican-leaning independents say they want their party to nominate someone other than Donald Trump in 2024, while a similar 59% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents say they'd like to see someone other than President Joe Biden at the top of their ticket in the next presidential election. So these numbers have also been consistent. Bases in both parties want somebody else, but it also goes on to say that when pressed, if Trump becomes the nominee for the GOP and Biden becomes a nominee for Democrats, that their base would overwhelmingly support them in a general election. But as I showed you, to differing degrees here, clearly, as Biden would still win out over Trump in this hypothetical matchup. Now, also, Quinnipiac poll, also new, from today. Just 31% of registered voters have a favorable opinion of Trump, his lowest number since July 2015. 25% of independent voters have a favorable opinion, Trump's lowest score since May 2015. So
Yikes.
big Trump boom in 2016, he's back there to those lower numbers. Back then, there was a lot of room for growth because even though people knew who Trump was, they didn't really take him. A lot of people didn't really take him seriously at that point. Now, people, I think, are less likely to move on their position on Trump. So these numbers really are not good for Donald Trump. Now, according to a one veteran Trump insider, said he is in trouble. But there was also good news for Trump in another poll covering the same time period by Morning Consult, which gave him an 18-point lead over DeSantis. Furthermore, the polling website 538 still shows Trump in the lead in most surveys. But it's worth pointing out here that the creator of 538, Nate Silver, says in advance of the 2016 GOP nomination campaign, a lot of folks, including me, dismissed polls showing Trump doing well among GOP primary voters. Well, now there's more and more evidence from polls that GOP voters are tiring of Trump and turning to DeSantis. Pointing out here, as people dismissed those polls back in 2016, and they shouldn't now be dismissing these polls where DeSantis is leading, and they should be paying attention to this and thinking that maybe this is a real trend, and this is something to...
Well, I mean, yeah, it would be like one thing if you just see like one poll pointing in one direction, but I think we can kind of extrapolate a trend. The only way I can be convinced otherwise is if they abolish the concept of superdelegates in the primary process. Yeah, but do both parties have superdelegates? The corporate donors are the ones who really choose the candidates. It's really just who they want to win, and the public just gets to watch the drama. I mean, corporate donors have an undue influence, but they don't get to choose everything. However, yeah, corporate donors and corporations do have a high undue influence. Just the Dems. Yeah, so that's a Democratic problem. Democratic Party problem. I am in action already. Yes. Yes, it's 5 p.m. Eastern.
Be aware of. Now let's compare briefly here DeSantis and Trump and where they differ. So, of course, DeSantis has done a lot in terms of attacking trans rights and his "Don't Say Gay" bill. I covered that in previous videos. So not much difference in terms of Trump and Trump's rhetoric around that issue as well. DeSantis here also defending abortion, the abortion ban. Same with Trump and the entire base, very in support of banning abortion. Also, DeSantis says marijuana should remain criminalized because of its odor. It's putrid.
Yes. That's the real... Makes perfect sense, folks.
Odor.
You should criminalize a substance based on its odor. Nice. I mean, if we're going off that logic, shouldn't we criminalize like oil?
So Trump also didn't do anything on cannabis. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, as I covered last month, he is moving to reform, at least in what he can do with his power, reform how cannabis is managed. But there is a big difference here between the two, and that's on the vaccines. So on Tuesday, DeSantis continued to court the Republican base, saying he would petition the Florida Supreme Court to convene a grand jury to investigate, quote, any and all wrongdoing with respect to COVID-19 vaccines, despite more than 83,000 people having died from COVID in his state. So let me do a little comparison here between Trump's comments in the past about the vaccine.
Yeah, so this is ridiculous.
And what Ron DeSantis is, and his comments as well in the past, but also now what he is doing with this investigation.
I've taken it. I've had the booster. Many politicians, I watched a couple of politicians be interviewed, and one of the questions was, did you get the booster? Because they had the vaccine. And they're answering it like, in other words, the answer is yes, but they don't want to say it.
Have you gotten the booster?
So I've done whatever I did, the normal shot.
Because they're gutless. You got to say it. Whether you had it or not, say it. Right. But the fact is that I think the vaccine has saved tens of millions of people throughout the world.
Then you have the mass introduction of mRNA vaccines in 2021, and you would think that there would be a reduction in excess mortality, and there just wasn't.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is correct that there are persistent excess deaths from COVID, and they tend to be among Republicans in his state and in Republican counties nationally.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, I know, Redmond Berry. I know.
All right, so shortly I'll get to another clip showcasing the bullshit at the heart of the paranoia that Ron DeSantis is putting out there around the vaccines. But first here, this comparison makes it very clear. Donald Trump, to his credit, actually told his voters, his supporters, to get vaccinated. Now, he may have just been doing it because he's a narcissist and he wants to take, he wants to take ownership over the vaccine and act like he's the one that saved millions of lives. Regardless, though, the impact is positive. Like telling people, the ones that need to hear it, to get the vaccine is good. Good on him for doing that, despite the fact that he knows that it's not all that popular within his party's base. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis utilizing the paranoia around vaccines to try and score political points. It's weird to see this or say this, but I think Trump's a better person than Ron DeSantis is. And Trump also is, in terms of who would you rather see in power, I would rather see Trump over DeSantis because Trump is crazy outlandish. He gets attacked by the media, as he should, but he gets attacked because he is over the top and it's easy to actually criticize him. DeSantis is somebody who will work in the dark, work in the shadows. He will still accomplish what Trump wants to accomplish or what, people around Trump want to accomplish, but he will do so successfully because he's not over the top. He isn't in your face. He doesn't have a lot of baggage. It's harder for the general media to attack him because of that. Or I shouldn't say harder for them to attack him, but they are less likely to attack Ron DeSantis and criticize him because he is less outlandish, less crazy than Trump is.
Mr. Johnny, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Trump will at least lead with porn stars. That's something true. This is why people shouldn't elect reality TV stars or power mad governors. Yeah, well, it's Florida.
At least rhetorically. So Ron DeSantis, I think, is more dangerous. But
I mean, TLDR, yeah, that's pretty much it. Ron DeSantis is more dangerous. Those people, except those people that get the most media attention, and since MSN is a dying species, they do anything to get the attention they can. True.
I don't know. Let me know what you think below the video. Let me just go to now this clip here, a continuation from that segment from MSNBC discussing Ron DeSantis and what he is now doing in Florida with these vaccines.
Despite widely available mRNA vaccines and variant-specific boosters, people are still dying of COVID. People who have not gotten the vaccines because they are Republican and have ingested a steady diet of partisan propaganda alleging that vaccines are somehow bad or can kill you or track you or turn you into an alien.
He's conducted a study that he's posted on the internet. There has been no peer review, Alex. And this has created essentially the underpinnings for this committee that they launched today. It's this one study that was poorly conducted. It's not scientific, but it's looking at these side effects. Let's talk about it. Let's looking at these side effects, myocarditis, inflammation of the heart. That is a rare side effect from these COVID, from the mRNA vaccines, particularly amongst young men. Somehow, Governor DeSantis and the Surgeon General think that something nefarious has gone on, that the CDC hasn't leveled with people, that this is a very rare side effect that's self-limiting, non-fatal, goes away on its own. And that is what multiple other studies, Alex, for all your viewers out there, and if Governor DeSantis, if he's listening, that's what multiple peer-reviewed studies that have been scientifically done have shown, that this is a mild side effect at worst. It's very rare. And oh, by the way, infection with the virus, coronavirus, can cause a more severe manifestation of myocarditis. They are only talking, they're cherry-picking data, they're doing bad science, and they're putting it on the internet.
So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
What does this gentleman define as rare. Do you know what rare means? Do I need like to look up the definition for you?
DeSantis is cherry picking data, specifically around myocarditis, which has already been studied, already well known that yes, there is a rare but small potential to get myocarditis non-lethal from a COVID-19 vaccine for largely young men. But when you compare that to cases of myocarditis for people that have had the actual virus, COVID-19, those cases are worse and more prevalent. But because they are focusing simply on the vaccine and not comparing the impact of the vaccine versus the impact of the virus, then they are getting away with this bullshit and utilizing this paranoia to try and score political points. Meanwhile, Trump, actual supporter of the vaccine. So this is going to be a big difference between these two going into this, what I have to assume is going to happen, this matchup between DeSantis and Trump, now especially because DeSantis sees the polling is in his direction. Now's the time to pounce. But it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to fight on this. Because look, an attack line, again, this is all hypothetical. It hasn't, this matchup isn't happening yet. But an attack that Trump could use is that Ron DeSantis at the beginning...
4 out of 6 of my family members had issues when receiving the vaccine regarding heart problems. What were they caused by the vaccine? And was that the underlying cause of it?
When the vaccines were first being rolled out, DeSantis got the vaccine to his rich buddies and wealthy zip codes earlier than everybody else. So why would he be giving the vaccine early to his donors and wealthy Republicans if he thought the vaccine was dangerous? Trump should take note of that and absolutely use that against Ron DeSantis. And if you want more information on that, Anna Kasparian at TYT did a fantastic...
It came about 2 to 3 weeks after receiving the vaccination, the same with 3 of my non-family members of different ages. So how do you know if this was directly linked to the vaccine? How do you know that? And you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. Do you have a disposition for heart conditions? And furthermore, that's still anecdotal. You're still giving me an anecdote. Well, I know that because the people didn't have the vaccine didn't get the... I know that because the people that didn't have the vaccine didn't get... You're not answering the question. Well, I know that because the people that didn't have the vaccine didn't get those heart problems. No, so your family has no predisposition to heart conditions. True. Five microchips underlock their hearts. True. How does that work? Is it wear ban? No, I know. That's weird. I know 7 people who haven't had this issue, and I don't know anyone who has had this issue like this pre-vaccine. Well, it's simplistic. I've had this issue 7 times. Yeah, that's like saying, like, yeah, I know everybody in my family who also doesn't have any preconditions to heart issues, never got any side effects, and they were completely vaccinated. So how do you explain that? You do realize that this is why when we talk about anecdotes, that's why we can't make determinations based on anecdotes. Does that make sense? Simplistic linguistic. Don't worry about mono. Let him be. Don't worry about it. Myocarditis for vaccines is 1 in 10,000 people.
A segment breaking that down. I'll link to her segment below this video. But we are going to see how this all plays out. Right now, it's looking like it's going in Ron DeSantis' direction. But we'll see what happens when the actual fight starts, and the real, comparison of charisma is also going to be on display.
Cool. So the serfs made a thread, and I think this was a well put together thread. Everybody needs to listen to this. I'm just saying I feel like it should be looked into a little more. They did. They did look into it. That's why we had studies into it and determined that while it does happen, it isn't as common, and the severity of it from getting COVID is more. So if you have more numbers of people with myocarditis from COVID, if you have more numbers of people with myocarditis and more severe myocarditis from COVID than you do from the people who are vaccinated, then doesn't that kind of already solve the issue here? Didn't we already solve this problem? Which is why they suggested that you should take the vaccine, because the myocarditis from COVID is more prevalent and worse. That answers your question. And you can't just make assumptions based on anecdotal evidence that you just happen to see, which, okay. If you feel like it should be looked into more, it was. Did you bother to look into it? Right, but flipping coin versus people held doesn't seem very awesome. Imagine saying the same thing for murder. No, that's, you completely missed the point. You're completely missing the point. Also, medicine is unlike the other natural sciences. Given the nature of genetics, its extremely successful medication still possess negative side effects for certain people of certain population groups. Right. But nonetheless, we make that determination. We made the determination that obviously suffering from COVID is worse. VAERS has no indication as to the validity of what you're looking for. If you're going based on VAERS, you're getting completely skewed data. You need to look at peer-reviewed studies of what you're looking for, and then you need to know how to interpret that data, okay? And then you need to know how to interpret that study, okay? Can you explain why both Nordic countries and Australia are not giving the shot to younger persons? What? Here's your answer. In a nutshell. Okay? So if I find a peer-reviewed article, I'm just gonna ban you. For making such a stupid comment. It doesn't seem like you're very honest. Hmm? That doesn't provide a peer reviewed, then what is this? Then what is this? What's misinformation? What's misinformation? Good rule of thumb is to ignore YouTube commenters. True. Very true. You do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Like, see, that's the difference, right? Like, when we make decisions, we at the very least attempt to make those decisions based on rational information, right? We don't just do whatever makes us feel comfortable. Like, that kind of gives it away, doesn't it? Right? We don't just say these things because it makes us feel comfortable. It's because we've tirelessly run through this over and over and over again with clowns, time after time after time. It's not about comfort. It's about doing this over and over and over and over. It gets tiring after a couple of years. If I was lied to, it didn't turn me into morphing my DNA. And it also shows very laziness on your part. Instead of providing actual information and discourse, the first reaction is to, are you trying to gaslight me?
Every time we go to Ukraine, we see hope.
What the heck is
Hope
that?
to have a home that hasn't been bombed.
The heck is that? Anyways. I'm literally repeating what you said. Did you not listen? I gave you what you wanted. Instead of providing actual information, I did. The study shows nothing, really. Can you provide otherwise? Can you provide evidence to the contrary? How is this study wrong? Where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? What is the problem here? Yes, I read the study. So where did it go wrong? Since you read it. That's not an explanation as to how the study went wrong. I never said it wrong. How is it useless, though? While you're at it, Google statistical significance and worth learning about it since you're bad at math. Exactly. We're talking to the effects of what? Times 10? Because of the tiny subset of people it will affect, that would not sway my mind one way or another. Oh, okay. Cool. Gotcha. So there's nothing wrong with the study, and you can't really prove to me how it was useless. And you also don't understand how numbers work. Cool. Any other clown want to try? I mean, we could just get this out of the way now. Any other clown want to try? Even CBS Stephen Colbert said that over 3 to 13 million were by COVID vaccine. Wait, what? What does that mean? Their feelings didn't care about facts. True. Carlos is doing God's work. True. How's it going? Spread it forward. You don't get to say true about... I am! He just said I'm doing the Lord's work. Of course I'm gonna have now a God complex. Of course. I love calculus, but I failed it 3 times. True. I just did a studio portraiture photography lesson. I feel like I didn't learn anything because the model was so pretty it's impossible to take a bad photo. There you go. That's a lesson in and of itself. Is that not a lesson in and of itself? I'm a photographer, and believe me, you got lucky. Some people just know how to position themselves, but most don't. There you go. Take it as a W. That's the lesson. I hope the death stats. What I was trying to prove is that when it comes to like these like anti-vax positions, all of these like clowns have such a incapable ability to they're incapable of just accepting some basic stuff that's been out there for a while now. Like if you just look it up, if you just Google it and you understand what's in front of you, you would see that. And it's not just like one study, okay? Because that doesn't tell you anything. This is just but an example. About COVID and DeSantis, COVID discussion about 157 minutes in. Oh no, I'm not watching Stephen Colbert, I'm sorry. Alio with another 10 biddies. What I'm trying to argue is simple as, okay? Simple as. As far as we know, to our understanding, the plurality of the data says that the reason why you would take the vaccine is because there's less chance and less severity than it is rolling the dice with COVID. That's it. That's the cost-benefit analysis. And here's the example. Here's one example proving that position. That's it. Yeah, 0.007, the same as 0.07. 10 times. 10 times the difference? Yeah, dude. I'm good at math. There are millions of people alive today because they had a vaccine. That's true. And a huge number of damaged people having from long COVID. Yeah, we haven't even taken that factor into effect, really. That into account. I used to teach fundamentals of using DSLR cameras in full manual mode to get the exact image you want. Nice. Nice. Anti-intellectualism lies at the root of conservatism, which makes their facts, not feelings, talking points so laughable, as if empathy and rationality were mutually exclusive. True. Not only that, it's just really funny, like, because conservatism requires you to move in that direction of anti-intellectualism, right? It requires you to do that, which is pretty funny. That's pretty cool. Spread it forward. I may or may not have some questions about certain DSLRs. Could we say capitalism saved lives from COVID? Not really. We could say that capitalism. I could make the argument. I could make the argument that capitalism made it slower. It was all the government resources that were poured in from several countries, all the information and government resources from several companies, from several countries that made it happen. Long COVID complications has contributed to more than 3,500 to 4,000 deaths from that time. Yeah, maybe so. I'm not sure. So the serfs made this thread, and truly, what a thread. Matt Walsh, who has been known, to run defense for nonces, is now talking about the Spanish conquistadors and whatnot. It just gets really disgusting. Be honest, COVID has not gone away. I never said it did. I've never said it did. Yeah, actual theocratic fascists. Yeah, like not kidding, not sarcastic. These people are incapable of doing that. Despite how it's worded in their bio, he's very serious about being a theocratic fascist. But anyways, yeah, I've never made the statement that COVID has gone away. Never made that statement.
They don't teach you in school. They don't teach you in school. Columbus actually did free a number of Indian captives that the Caribs were preparing to eat. So in one village on an island where Columbus had stopped, the Spaniards, they found a young boy tied up in a cage, and he was being fattened for consumption. And so when Columbus encountered stuff like that, he would oftentimes free the people. So, Columbus, he never governed with the savagery of an Aztec king or even a Carib chieftain.
He never governed with the savagery, is what his words were. What is it?
Of an Aztec king, or governed with the savagery of an Aztec.
The savagery. Really? It's well known that Columbus had hands that were made of gold, and Google Columbus gold hands to find out more. So even Columbus had moral boundaries. Good to know. First of all, I don't even know if that's true. Um, and Columbus was so bad that even Cortez, which we'll get to in a second, was like, yo, dude, chill. Columbus was a moral and ethical dumpster fire. Google conquistadors, y'all. Yeah, I know. But specifically Columbus. All I see here is Columbus had an issue with cannibalism, and that's a low bar. Yeah, but I don't even... First of all, I don't even know if that's true. You could have made that up to justify his atrocities, maybe. Yeah, actually, I think Evil Robot Jeff just kind of put it, just kind of hit it in the head. This naturally raises the questions why the Spaniards were so insistent on portraying the natives as cannibals. There are a couple of different explanations for this, but they're essentially all related. Marvin Lundfeld summarizes that the accusation of cannibalism by, quote, primitive people were a device to make conquest and exploitation morally legitimate. And the men who ate other men were never thought quite to be human, which, well, if I can say that these group of people are not human, then I can do anything to them. Kilpatrick Sale, among other scholars, believed that the Spaniards found what they wanted to find and took any suspect evidence that existed in support of their preconceived notions and simply extrapolated and exaggerated. Sale further notes that of those peoples whose lands were seen as questionably as increasingly desirable, it is always convenient to regard the foreign population as inferior. How positively fortuitous, then, that they had provided the evidence of their inferiority 3 times a day with every meal. By portraying the natives as primitive savages, which is also Matt Walsh's words, or not even full human beings which took pleasure in eating other people, the Spaniards had a much easier time adjusting to the idea that these people who deserved conquering and what they were doing was just and right. Why are we still talking about Columbus? Because it's it's at the center of what we're discussing right now. In the year 1500, Columbus wrote 100 castellanos are easily obtained for a woman as a farm for a farm, and it's very general, and there are plenty of dealers who go about looking for girls. For those 9 to 10 are now in demand. Yeah, that's probably why Matt Walsh likes him. Most colonial empires did horrible stuff back then. We are living with the aftermath today. Yes, and it's important to understand if we want to have a idea of what happened, right? So I don't understand why that comment was even made. When we have people in 2022 completely distorting what happened back then for the sake of pushing what effectively can only be white supremacist rhetoric.
Aztec king or even a Carib chieftain, but he was a pretty bad governor in his own right, and he did take slaves. He was a man of his time in that way. And he was a pretty incompetent governor. But we have to keep in mind, back in those days, if you were an explorer and a sea captain, you were expected to be, you had to be a navigator, a captain, an astronomer, a mathematician. And then when you made it to your destination, you also had to be a politician and a governor and a king. You had to be all of those things. And very few of those men could do all of those things perfectly. I don't think...
What does this have to do with that? It's just an equivalence. I never made an equivalence, or I've never brought up the Holocaust at any point in this conversation. Not once. I'm talking about what happened to the indigenous people and how it's completely divorced from reality, from what he's saying. What he's depicting is some, wild distortion of history. Completely not accurate. Right. A man of his time does a lot of work for these revisionist weasels. Yeah, and people like Cortez, literally made so much shit up. People like the Spanish Inquisition, the Spanish conquistadors, I should say, made up so much shit to justify their gross treatment and to justify all the atrocities that they did. That it's just wild. That this guy is sitting up here and saying the shit that he is. We'll get to it. The first video is important.
In the world could. So, I think all in all, it should be said that Columbus was...
Yeah, the victors made up the own history, and he's repeating it to push a narrative, which we will get to.
Brilliant on the sea, not so brilliant on land.
Didn't he also get lost? Didn't he get lost?
We say, well, all cultures are equal. You can't judge any culture.
So here's where I was going with this, which is why I played the second video before playing this one in the thread. Yeah, he thought it was India, right? So the reason why I played the second video is to kind of piggyback here.
We say, well, all cultures are equal. You can't judge any cultures. No culture is better than any other culture. That is clearly not the case, as evidenced by the human sacrifices among the Aztecs. The Spanish culture, the Spanish who conquered the Aztecs, their culture and their civilization was clearly better than the Aztec culture.
Yeah.
And this is me talking now, not Ben. The Spanish culture was superior in every way, but they had
The Spanish culture was superior in every way. No. Wrong. Am I wrong to think that the Trump NFT grift is more pertinent to today? No. The Trump NFT thing is just like a meme. Like that's not even news. Like we spent about a total of like 5 seconds because it was just like it's just funny and like more of his people are getting fleeced. Because it's yet another grift. Like, wow. That's not really relevant at all. More technologically developed does not equal better. No, not even like more technologically developed. Not even. In some regards, like the indigenous like people in South America and Central America, I should say, had shit that was like super fucking modern in comparison. That European cities didn't have.
not advanced.
Like this idea that, oh yeah, dude, they just like did the whole like superior tactics and whatnot and guns and whatnot. That's not even true. In fact, with a lot of there's notations that when the Spanish got there, they took off their metal armor because it was way too heavy, and you started using the indigenous armor because it was so much lighter and still offered like pretty decent enough protection. So this idea that like they were just so advanced, like way ahead of them, that's not true. Also, like firearms back in that century, wasn't that a big of advantage? How like people think it was. Also, given that they didn't have access to the cultural diffusion made possible by intercontinental trade routes, incredible that they were large-scale urban civilizations in the America with written languages, math. Yeah, they had all this kind of shit. And like the idea that this asshat is going on like saying, oh yeah, dude, these were just like savages. Dude, it's literally in the playbook of the Spanish conquistadors to depict them as this. Hernan Cortez, which he's about to get into, Hernan Cortez was literally trying to lie by calling the people there where he was in Mexico at the time, I guess, as like sodomites, when that was never really the case. He was going around saying that they were all sodomites. So, that's of course a sin. And that justifies what they did, the atrocities that they did. The Aztecs and Iberian warring cultures share both similarities and differences. The similarities, however, were glossed over for a long time in order to better show the striking differences between these two cultures, the one, quote, civilized and other barbaric. Not much can be known about the Aztec warring culture before this conquest, but what is known seems to revolve around the Aztecs' ritualistic and religious ceremonies. Yes, not only that, the Spanish destroyed a lot of these records. The Spanish destroyed a lot of them. The Spanish destroyed a lot of them. The main separation is the Bronze Age, but what really won was the illness. Yes, smallpox. Yes.
advanced anywhere near as far as the Europeans had. But when I say that
That's
the
not true
Spanish
either.
civilization was a superior civilization, I mean primarily morally. It was a morally superior civilization.
That's debatable, my dude. That is wild. That is a wild accusation there. That the Spanish was morally superior. The Spanish culture was morally superior. Sir, have you seen what they did in the Spanish Inquisition? Have you seen... Oh, that's an instant ban. Fuck off. Have you seen the atrocities that Hernan Cortez and Christopher Columbus did? They were infamous for their brutality. Yes. The Paleo-American culture was epic AF. He needs to go back and talk to some history majors. Wrong. Yeah, he's completely off base here. He literally picked up like the Spanish version of what happened and was like, yes, this is good. But there's a reason why he's pushing this.
The Spanish weren't perfect by any means, and they did practice they practiced slavery. But then again, every single civilization in the world in the 16th century practiced slavery.
Bro, it wasn't just that they didn't they practiced slavery, dude. I'm part Spanish and Cuban. What is Master Walsh talking about? I have no idea. While Spaniards spent most of the time defending their religion and God's intention, they spread it to the God's intention that they spread it to the natives, and even God's wish that they destroy the natives as the tool of inferior people that was immoral and had to be destroyed, and its participants enslaved or eliminated. Yes, he's Christian, I think. He's Christian. I don't know, like Catholic, maybe. I don't know. This is why he's pushing. Yeah, he's pushing the Spanish lore, because that's it goes into like this idea, like the far right about the West and whatnot. Yeah, it ties all into the whole Christian nationalism. But this lore. That the far right likes to push in terms of like the West and whatnot, all of this kind of circles around this idea.
So that's not much of a surprise. None of that compares to the Aztecs, though.
Yeah, none of that. You know, the child raping, the Spanish Inquisition, none of that. You know.
It's okay for us in the West to
there it is.
admire and honor the great men who built our civilization.
And there it is, folks. I think I think that pretty much speaks for itself, right?
Men like Cortez, for
yeah,
instance.
True. Men like Cortez who justified the brutality and atrocities to the indigenous people there by trying to paint them as barbaric sodomite heathens. His words, Cortez's words. Yeah, cool. These are heroes to people like Matt Walsh.
They were flawed. You know, they certainly were flawed. And Europeans were guilty of atrocities of their own. But nobody tells Native Americans that they can't be proud of their heritage. Nobody tells them that. Even though in the case of the Aztecs and many other Indian civilizations, they were guilty of just barbaric atrocities.
Right. Unlike, the perfect, unlike the European, which he fails to even acknowledge. The way he's smirking pisses me off too. He needs to chill the fuck out on this subject, because if you cannot respect one of the most amazing empires on earth, then what do you respect? Paleo-American history is American history. Well, maybe Mexican, but it's still North America. Yet not only that, it's just completely divorced from reality. What he's describing here is fantasy. What he is describing here is fantasy. And mostly on the backs of the Spaniards that were there. Which obviously, no shit, you're gonna get a biased view. What he's describing here is just not correct, factually inaccurate, it's gross, and it's disgusting.
But no one tells Native Americans you can't be proud of your past, and you can't have your own heroes that you look to. By the way, when Cortez launched his final siege of the capital city, where what is now Mexico City, it's true that ultimately the entire city was destroyed and almost every inhabitant was slaughtered. But most of the wholesale slaughter did not happen on the part of the Spanish. It was on the part of the Indian allies of the Spanish, who had been oppressed for years by the Aztecs, and so they wanted vengeance. And so the other Indians went into the, the Aztecs, and so they wanted vengeance. And so the other Indians went into the,
Right, this is whitewashing savagery BS, like the cartoons that they used to draw in the 1700s. Right. This is just wild and divorced from reality, and on top of that, just not right. And just not right.
We say, well, all cultures are equal.
Yeah. Taking a page from Ben Franklin's book, put a top hat on native and empty his culture, make them white. Yeah, it's basically exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to destroy. Well, they had to. It was a command by God. They had to. It was a command, and they were empowered to do so. They had an imperative to do so because God. That's what God said. If you really want, if you really want like a glimpse of what it was like back then, I highly recommend to reading the book 1491, and you can see for yourself just how full of shit this person is and how disgusting Matt Walsh really is. And I think like the serfs, the thread on the serfs kind of just really ends it on a good note as to kind of to give you an idea of where the mentality and where the ideology is leading to. Yeah, it's a great Yes, I'm still working on it, by the way. I'm still working on finishing the book, but so far it's a good book. It's been a good book. So if you actually want to get like a more accurate understanding of what it was like in the Americas for the indigenous people, read 1491 and you'll see how full of shit this fucker is.
Is just like that. Now the thing behind you, but they don't exist in a vacuum down there. They're just if there's kind of like a portal from another universe or something that is letting people through, they're right at ground zero of the portal, so they're going to get everything first. But then we're going to get we're going to eventually get it too. So a 213% increase in Hispanic children in the next 40 years. That's insane.
I had no idea that this guy was such a dick. Thanks for sharing. Fuck this Matt dude. Oh yeah, listen, if I could just, if the fact that you are now aware of this, and that makes one person, and it gets worse, Swaggy. It gets worse, and you can point to this to somebody else, and that somebody else can point it to other people. That's how this works, CFC. Recognize what we're looking at here, okay? And then spread the word, okay? Because if you're now aware of it, now that you know just how, not only just dangerous, but how much of a piece of shit this fucking guy is, feel free to share it. Feel free to share it. And I didn't have to say much, really. Matt Walsh did all the work for me. I've seen him make conservative talking points. I will share this for sure. I'm conservative, and he's a piece of shit for sharing this take. Yeah, if you're conservative, I don't know why you would be conservative. This is a conservative. This is being conservative. I don't know why you would even. I don't even know why you would even want to be having the same consonants. I don't know why you would even want to share CON. Not even the letter C. I don't even know why you would even want to share that ideology, because that's where it leads. That's where it leads, my friend. That's where it leads. He is one of the largest conservative pundits. He is one of the largest conservative pundits who continues to be employed by one of the largest online media, conservative media, the Daily Wire. So they completely rubber stamp this. They're completely okay with this. Because this isn't the first time, nor is it the only way he's such a piece of shit. But this is just conservatism. Like, I don't know why you would even want to be even adjacent to this. Because I have respect for actual history, not whitewash BS. Yeah, then I don't know why you would even want to even consider the label conservative. I don't pay too much attention to him. Well, he's huge. He's huge in the conservative movement. This is where that ideology leads, my friend.
And that's like the current rate, right? Like, you know, if they do, you know, magically put up a wall or something of that nature, that number would probably come down a little bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, at the current rate, that's what they're looking at. The state's largest county, Harris County, will shed Anglos throughout the coming decades. Shedding Anglos. There's something band name. By 2040, Harris County will have about 516,000 fewer Anglos than live in the Houston area in 2000. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, the specifics of the Texas demographics, not really important. But the point is, you see how, and we've heard this before. Maybe this is more dramatic than what we've heard before. And when no one's actually said it's over for us, we're done. Our race of people, we're singing our swan song right now. We're the last of the Mohicans, the last of the Anglos. He's the first person to jump to that conclusion. But all of the studies we've seen, and just when you look around yourself, that's what you see. Now, there might be some people that say, well, okay, so what? Big deal. It's not, it's still people living here. So maybe
Yeah. This guy sounds like he's taking talking points from Nick Fuentes. Damn. Interesting observation. I'm just saying. That's a very interesting observation that you just made, CFC. It's almost like it's almost like this is where the ideology leads to. I mean, you're connecting the dots. So, like, what part of conservatism, why would you even want to be adjacent to any of this? Like, the mainstream politicians are talking about insurrection. You know that, right? The Republican Party is literally not doing anything about insurrectionary talking points. The conservatives are literally taking away people's rights to choose what they do with their bodies. I mean, what part of conservatism is appealing? Is it the insurrectionary behavior? Is it the which you happen to connect the dots very quickly, because it seems like you are picking up what I'm throwing down. You immediately connected the dots. It sounds like he's taking talking points from Nick Fuentes. Interesting. In the UK, we call these subjects dead cats thrown on the table to hide something more serious. Yeah. 100%. Well, perhaps people have too many choices. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Too many choices. What? In regards to what?
Maybe the races mix a little bit, and it's no big deal. We all move on. Well, it is because we're all dying off. That's what the problem is. It's not that we're just, as the Mexicans.
Damn, did a clown show end early today? We've got like literal fucking racists in chat trying to sneak in the N-word. Wow. This is what conservatives have to offer? This is what conservatism has to offer? Damn. I start shitting on Matt Walsh, and it really does bring out the best, huh? It really does bring out the best of conservatives out here, doesn't it?
Come in, we magically meld with them and become like them. It's not like that. It's that we are dying off, just like any other species of animal does. We're dying, and the way that animals, there's two ways that animals die off. Well, three ways. One's disease. Two is deforestation, or they lose their habitat, which, okay, look at us.
Interesting. He makes that connection, and while completely unwilling to address the climate crisis, perhaps we need to remove people like Matt from the equation. I don't know what that means. Like, do you mean like people like him shouldn't be allowed to be like on platforms and stuff like that? Yeah. I don't even know why he even has a job at the Daily Wire to begin with. But the answer to that question, it's rhetorical. Ben Shapiro doesn't give a shit about any of this.
And then the third one is that they stop reproducing, and usually all three of those things happen kind of simultaneously. And that's what's happening with us. The extinction of the Anglo-Saxon race is just like that. Now, the solution is pretty simple. It's just the solution is to freaking reproduce and have kids and have family.
Yeah. So you're just trying to say that what Swaggy was saying, fiscally conservative, which I can debate that. I can debate that. Although I don't know why you would be a Catholic and also against a Catholic and also oh wait, no, you're pro-life. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You can't be in favor of individual freedom and be pro-life. These two things are completely incoherent. Or using Matt Walsh, Kanye, and Trump as people not to believe what nonsense they preach. Yeah, well, it's a little bit more dangerous than that. You see, because like I said, conservatism leads to this. This is the end game of conservatism. If you don't believe fundamentally in the right to bodily autonomy, in the right to choose and have self-determination, you cannot, by definition, believe in individual freedom. That's not how this works. I don't think that the government should tell you what you can and cannot do. So then by definition, you are not pro-life. Pro-life. You are pro-choice. So then you're not pro-life. You're actually pro-choice. Google Catholic social teaching. Alleviation of poverty is supposed to be a key concept of a precept of Christianity, and it's not possible in a free market economic system. I'm personally pro-life, but you are then you're pro-choice. Wait, you can't say you're pro-life, but then tell everybody you can do what they want. Right, so then you're pro-choice because you're telling people it's their choice to do what they want. So you're, by definition, pro-choice. The pro-life people, the pro-life position says, no, you don't have a choice. We will impose that on you. That's not what you're arguing. You're arguing from a pro-choice position. You're saying that people should choose to do what they want freely. That is a pro-choice argument. You are actually making pro-choice arguments. So don't call yourself pro-life if you're not pro-life. It just means that you personally wouldn't choose that, but you're not taking the choice away from other people. That is the pro-choice position, my friend. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. They're not just assholes, they're conservatives. You gotta own it. That's what conservatives believe in. I mean, what the person is referring to is the Great Replacement Theory. Yes, that's exactly what Matt Walsh is referring to. Yes. Its origins come from the fact that people don't understand some pretty simple sociology. Identities are not binary and they're fluid, and we can see it thanks to changes in consensus questions. More and more Americans hold multiple identities simultaneously, which means that people will choose the predominant identity, which means that actually white people aren't going anywhere. They're just a little different than they used to be. True. Hambliss, how's it going? Who is pumping the Great Replacement movement? Matt Walsh. Next, the blue people goes think, where does it end?
Please clap.
Anywho, yeah. So Matt Walsh, the TLDR, like this is where conservatism leads to, my friend. And I want you to see this. I want you to see this because like this isn't just like a exaggeration. This isn't an exaggeration, right? Nor is it a fringe element. Nor is it a fringe element of conservatism. And if you found this repulsive, which you did, if you found this repulsive, then you understand. True. 100 years now, the pink race will be a myth. True. So you're an anarchist? Yeah, like Comrade CFC is arguing for fucking anarchism. Richard Allen's book, The Great Demographic Illusion, is a very good introduction to the misconceptions around the census data from not just xenophobes on the right, but even Democrats on the left. You can never really assume too much about people based on simple observations. Damn, what a concept! Amazing. Well said. By the way, I don't think I would turn to a party for these kind of prescriptions. Yes. Hey, I have a thought experiment. I have a thought experiment. I have a thought experiment. CFCW. I'm never gonna be able to pronounce this. CFC. I have a thought experiment. Would you buy into my ideology as best as I can describe it? So I'll pitch it to you. Would you buy into the concept of democratic capitalism, and the concept of democratic capitalism is where there are democratic systems within the workplace that allow the workers to have more of a choice as to what goes on in the workplace. Workers would have more of a choice as to what happens in the workplace. There would be there would be even instances where, I mean, in my personal belief, workers should own the reaps. It should reap the fruits of their labor. In this democratic capitalist system, the workers would be the ones to reap the fruits of the labor. Does that sound like something fair? Stop. This isn't for you, chat. Isn't all this negotiated when you agree to a contract of employment? No. Stop. It's not that simple. In my system, the workers have much more of a choice as to what happens in their workplace. We already have such... No, we don't. 1099 is not what I'm describing at all. So you're not hiring anybody. these people are all self-employed. That's not. Independent contractors are not the same as you as in the workplace. I have a decision as to what happens within my work space, and I also find myself in the situation where I could actually reap the fruits of my own labor. That is not the same as independent contractors, because independent contractors cannot negotiate jack shit. They really can't. They're in no position to do anything except what you tell them. Stop giving it away, Hambliss. Stop. Let them. Damn it. Let them make this. Let them make this conclusion. The thought process was moving in that direction. I was trying to see where we could go with this. Hey. Kitty. Because, like, really what I was describing in a system where the workers reap the fruits of their own labor, meaning that they're the ones who actually... Hey! Stop it. They're the ones who actually own, you know, the means of production. I think the system of capitalism works just fine if you're going to work... If you're going to work being almost owners. No, I mean actually... owning the means of production. That is different. But no, the system of capitalism does not work fine as it is. Have you seen the levels of inequality? Have you seen the levels of inequality? It's not working fine as it is. It's not at all. Imagine looking like at the state of economics, the economic state, and being like, yeah, dude, this works. This works. If a group of people come together to set up a co-op, that's one thing, but most companies are set up by a few employers that carry out all the risk and deserve the reward. That's not how that works. That's some like childish like view of economics. Come on. Sorry, that's a childish way of a naive way of thinking of how like businesses work. You don't think that employees carry risk? You don't think that employees carry risk either? I mean, if your comeback is childish, then I'd look in the mirror. Can't relate. 600,000 homeless people disagree. True. Isn't inequality a requirement for capitalism? Yes. And so do the employees? What happens if you... Jagerbomb, that's very dishonest. What happens if you don't pay your bills? What happens if your employer goes belly up and now you no longer have health care because that's who you depended on, because unless you want to pay exorbitant prices, it kind of comes hand in hand. What happens if your health care is suddenly pulled out from under you? What happens if you can't make the payment to your rent? You don't think that a bank would immediately seize their house back if you're paying a mortgage? You don't think that your landlord would kick you out if you don't pay the rent? What are you talking about? If your employer goes belly up, you go and get another. Oh yeah, dude, it's just, it's just that simple. You just get a job. You just get another. That's a risk. Everyone. Oh, okay. So it's not. Okay. So now we're backpedaling. So now we're backpedaling. Cool. So now it's not just the employers. It's the employees who also share risk. Cool. Gotcha. But your original statement was the few employers carry all the risk. Now you're saying everyone shares the risk. We can read, right? We can just scroll up and look at your original comment, right? Quote, if a group of people come together to set up a co-op, that's one thing. But most companies are set up by a few employers that carry all the risk and deserve the reward. Yeah, I think we can read, my friend. I don't think a bank immediately seizes a house the moment you're made it self-employed. Then a bank doesn't also immediately seize any assets when you go belly up. You have 120 days till foreclosure. They take the assets of the company that's going belly up, not yours. Not the actual CEOs or the bosses. You're being dishonest again, Jaegerbomb. You're not making a good case. And you're also not being very honest by depending on what kind of bankruptcy. Because depending on the kind of bankruptcy, they may not even have to forfeit anything. They can reorganize and continue to operate. So you're not even telling us the full truth there. You can grind dishonest as much as you like, but all the assets owned by a company are from the investment of the employer, not the employee. Yeah, but they're not the ones that always take the L. And also, depending on what kind of bankruptcy, they don't even have to do that. They can just reorganize and continue to operate under a reorganization plan. Yeah, we all know how efficient capitalism is. Our reply is that efficiency and profit should not be the sole arbiter of value and power in an economic system. True, because it shouldn't be. And furthermore, the only thing capitalism is efficient at is driving profit and consolidating into fewer and fewer hands. That's the whole point. Like, it's literally a game of Monopoly. That was the point of it. That is the end goal. Like, why would you support a system that you say works so efficiently when there's so much like inequality? Did you think that that's like something that just Robert Reich made up? You sound like Robert Reich with the economical inequality of the lower class. Well, that's not a refutal to that comment, is it? That's not a rebuttal. So then you must concede that there is a huge economic inequality. If reorganization plan is a solution to companies going bankrupt, no companies would be losing assets. That's not always true, my friend. You're not. Again, that's not true. That's not true. If a company declares Chapter 11, it's asking for a chance to reorganize or recover. If it does, then your shares may too, or if not, then everything goes belly up. So it depends on just how it reorganizes itself, and depends on which chapter of which bankruptcy you declare, as well. Fun fact, the original game Monopoly was communism. They changed it when they bought it from the designer. Really? Was that it? I thought that, like, the original, you really don't lose everything. The company does. You really don't lose everything. The company does. So now we're shifting, we're pivoting. You realize when a request for time to recover can be denied. Can it? While a rejection or denial of bankruptcy is very unusual. So, yeah, I mean, sure, if you want to push to edge cases, and you can file for bankruptcy multiple times. So, I don't know. It just seems like you're trying to make excuses. It just seems like you're making excuses, my friend. The point is, like, the idea that that capitalism is working fine as it is, it's not. It kind of seems the same way here, but that's not a rebuttal. I am, but what are you? Wait, no, that's not it. I know you are, but what am I, or some shit? The point is, investors carry far more risk than employees and deserve more reward. An investor who takes an L, a multi-millionaire investor that takes a small L and still gets to keep their house, does not come even close, at all. You're acting as if, like, these investors are, like, middle class, like, if they pour everything in it and they lose everything, like, that's not how this works, dude. What you're depicting is fantasy. What you're depicting is fantasy. But yeah, the idea that capitalism is efficient, only until that it's efficient at consolidating resources into fewer and fewer hands. This story about Monopoly is weird. Wikipedia is telling. I thought it was originally to demonstrate the problems with capitalism, and how it tends to move towards monopoly. And I think that the original creator of Monopoly had actually a separate rule guidelines where you could play the game differently, where it doesn't happen that way. Investor can lose millions. Okay, and I'm not edge casing. What? How? Investors can lose millions. A sole trader setting up a company can lose everything. You're talking about like the one dude who's trying to set up a small business. True. No, not this. Where's the meme? Who do you think the investors are?
Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching the Today I Found Out YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at who really invented Monopoly.
Hold on, this is important.
In
chat.
1933, at the height of the Great Depression, a down-on-his-luck Charles Darrow invented the still extremely popular board game Monopoly, making the impoverished man a millionaire seemingly overnight, a personification of the American dream. Never able to fully explain how he came up with the concept, Darrow once described his invention as totally unexpected and a freak of nature. Over the last 8 decades, the game has entertained hundreds of millions of people and made Darrow an exceptionally wealthy man in his lifetime, with his name forever etched into gaming lore. However, this Monopoly origin story should not pass go and should not collect $200. In other words, while still often repeated today, it's false. The true inventor of Monopoly was a turn-of-the-century feminist and left-wing activist Elizabeth Magie, who was looking to create a game that illustrated certain economic concepts. The daughter of local newspaper publisher and noted abolitionist James Magie, Elizabeth Magie was raised to question the governing class. She admired her father and was often told that she was a chip off the old block, which she thought of as a compliment, once saying, "I am proud of my father for being the kind of an old block that he is."
EMP? What does EMP mean? Yeah, this is what I remember. It was invented, I just didn't like pinpoint exactly, but it was invented to illustrate the problems with capitalism.
As a young girl, her father exposed Magie to progressive, anti-capitalist writings and attitudes, including Henry George's 1879 best-selling book, Progress
EMP,
and Poverty.
gotcha.
This influential book was the seed that the famed game grew from. Most notable to the subject at hand, the book pushed a single land tax replacing all other taxes, positing that it would affect the wealthy more heavily, redistribute wealth, curb poverty, and destroy monopolies. At the turn of the 20th century, board games were becoming all the rage. As the middle class began to grow and work moved into factories and away from the home, and the workday was starting to be markedly shortened, see our video on why a typical workday is 8 hours long for more information on that one, the house became the center of leisure activity. Hence the boom of more complex games beyond cards or dice in the ensuing decades. Knowing that a board game would better capture the attention of her middle class audience, and thus potentially be a good vehicle to help illustrate and spread George's principles, Magie began
I
working
didn't say
on
that.
games
Somebody
based
else
on
did.
them, specifically creating an anti-monopolist and a monopolist game, illustrating both sides of the issue. In 1897, the monopolist version debuted, and 6 years later, she patented it as the landlord's game. While not quite what we play today, there are striking similarities between Magie's original game and Monopoly. Landlords was also played with fake money and deeds, which were used to pay rent, taxes, and purchase property. Moving around the board, players earned wages for labor performed and got $100 for moving past the Mother Earth space, basically the game's version of Go. Other spaces forced players to pay money. Public parking and jail were situated on the corner of the board, just like today. There were chance cards, but they were adorned with quotes from Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Carnegie. There was even a space that read "Go to jail," which means exactly what it does today. One had to sit in jail until they rolled doubles or paid a $50 fine.
That's right. It was supposed to teach how shitty capitalism
Game
is.
ends
Yep.
when all but one person runs out of money. Maggie prided herself not on the gameplay, but rather its message. It is a practical demonstration of the present system of land grabbing with all its usual outcomes and consequences, she wrote in a magazine article in 1902. It might well have been called the game of life as it contains all the elements of success and failure in the real world. It was also meant as a not so thinly veiled indictment of industrialists like John Rockefeller. Producing it in partnership with a New York-based firm, it made virtually no money. That was never really her goal in creating it. The landlord's game just became a popular pastime among the liberal intellectual crowd, played often on college campuses and in the Northeast. In fact, its early spread in popularity was in no small part thanks to certain professors, such as Scott Nearing of the University of Pennsylvania.
The winning move
and
is not to
later
exploit,
at the
but
University of
yeah,
Toledo,
well,
teaching it to students as a sort of fun example of certain finance and business concepts. Importantly to its evolution to the modern version of the game, it was also embraced by Quakers. Within a decade of its launch, most of the rules we know and love today from the game were in place, in one version or another, and even the name of the game was a little more familiar. For instance, sometime in the 1910s, a variant of the game called Auction Monopoly popped up that shortens the gameplay slightly from the original, which required buying properties at their list price. The Quakers would later drop the auction part in their version of the game for unclear reasons, restoring that part of the rules closer to the original 1904 version. In these modified games, people tended to customize the names of the properties to fit their locality and slightly tweak the rules to their liking. This is a trend that has continued in Monopoly, and you can see our video on ways you're playing Monopoly wrong to learn more about that. Now, by the 1920s, some began trying to profit from sales of their version of the game, such as one Dan Lehman, who tried to patent his own version called The Fascinating Game of Finance, later just Finance, but failed when Maggie's patent was discovered by Lehman's attorney. Instead, Lehman copyrighted and began selling his version of the board for the game. After her patent expired, Maggie decided to patent an updated version of her game in 1924. This updated version included minor changes from the original game, such as making it so that if you owned all of each of the railroads or utilities, you could charge higher rents on those properties. She also introduced chips which signified properties had been upgraded, allowing the owner to charge more rent than otherwise. So, how does Charles Darrow come into the story? Sometime around 1932, Darrow and his wife Esther were invited for dinner and a board game at the house of Oliver and Charles Todd, a Philadelphia businessman and a Quaker. Together, they played a Quaker version of the landlord's game. Todd later stated of this, "The first people we taught the game to, after learning it from the Rayfords, was Darrow and his wife Esther."
Globus the Elder, rating with a party of 11. Welcome. Elon risks 44 billion on Twitter. If he fails, his lifestyle will, well, not change at all. True, but he's taken all the risk, Hambless. I should be able to derive outsized value from the labor of others because I took on the risk of being in the right place at the right time with full pockets. True. Folks, if you haven't seen me before, I am A Difficult Truth. I do the news, I do the politics Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys enjoy the content, and you guys like what you see, you enjoy the vibe, make sure you hit the follow button. What up? Hey, how's it going, Globus? I appreciate the raid. And we've got a back-to-back-to-back raid. Look at that. Double raid. Wow. It's a raid chain. Unreal. Unreal. And Troma with a tier 1 sub. Levelhead with the double raid with 21 folks. Welcome, everybody. Come here. Come here, kitty. I guess we should take a second then. Hello, everybody. Welcome, if you guys are just coming in. If you guys are just coming in from Levelhead and from Globus, welcome. I'm A Difficult Truth. I do the news, I do the politics Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Really does help us out. Spread the word. Quick shout outs. Thank you to Globus the Elder. Thank you to Levelhead please make sure you go and follow and support these wonderful folks. Yeah, I know, she's headbutting the mic. Carpet Packs is also in chat. Make sure you go follow them. 420 out west feels lit, man. Did I really pause it on 420? Oh no. Oh, 420 in your time zone. Gotcha. Levelhead is base. True. Read and rap. I'm going to try to keep her away from booping the mic.
It was entirely new to them. They had never seen anything like it before and showed a great deal of interest in it. Darrow asked me if I would write up the rules and regulations, and I wrote them up and checked with Rayford to see if they were right and gave them to Darrow. He wanted 2 or 3 copies of the rules, which I gave him and gave Rayford and kept some myself. What happens next was pure theft. As explained in Mary Pyland's 2015 The Monopolists, Obsession Fury and the Scandal Behind the World's Favorite Board Game, Darrow was desperate for money to pull his family out of the doldrums of the Great Depression, thus taking the slightly modified rules and additions made by the Quaker community, and even having the audacity to use the existing, not uncommon name Monopoly, he began making handcrafted sets of the game and selling them as his own creation. As for his exact contributions to the game, it seems to be nothing more than some artwork and possibly a few minor rule tweaks. Although it isn't actually clear if he came up with anything original that...
Damn. Is this capitalist innovation?
Wasn't already in the existing version. In fact, Darrow even copied the game so closely from Todd that he kept Todd's misspelling of Marvin Gardens, which actually should be spelled Marven Gardens with an E. It worked out, and his copies of the game began selling well enough that he had to expand his operation, all the while pitching the game to various companies with little success. For instance, Milton Brady turned down an offer from Darrow to buy the rights to his game in May of 1934. Nevertheless, after managing to get a Monopoly on the shelves at FAO Schwartz and having a particularly strong Christmas in 1934, Robert Barton of Parker Brothers decided to buy the rights to the game for his struggling company. If you're wondering, Barton was the son-in-law of George Parker. They paid Darrow $7,000, which is about $125,000 today, plus future residuals for the game, and helped him patent it. Within a year, with Great Depression Americans imagining they too were industry tycoons, if only for a few hours at a time, the game flew off the shelves, selling nearly 2 million copies in that short span. At this point, you might be wondering why Parker Brothers didn't get in a boatload of legal trouble for selling the game once it took off. Was it simply a case of Maggie never finding out before her death, similar to that time Lego borrowed the Lego brick from Kitty Craft and got away with it? Well, not so much. Very quickly after purchasing the rights to the game, Parker Brothers learned that Darrow had not been honest with them when he claimed that he had created it. They then traced it to its origin with a little help from Darrow, who supposedly admitted what he'd done in a meeting when confronted by Barton. The result of this was Darrow's contract with them being slightly renegotiated, with Darrow now granting Parker Brothers worldwide rights to the game. As for Maggie, at this point, her original 1904 patent had expired, which was good for Parker Brothers. However, the 1924 patent for the Landlord's game had not. Thus, Parker Brothers sought out and purchased Maggie's 1924 patent for a mere few $100s and no future royalties if the game should sell well. They then produced that version of the game and sent her a copy, which she was reportedly ecstatic about. In fact, she sent a letter back to the company stating that since its arrival on her doorstep, there was a song in her heart. Parker Brothers also began snapping up the copyrights and patents for other variants of the game, including the aforementioned Layman's Finance version, just to further cover themselves. However, eventually, Maggie did learn of Monopoly, and the song in her heart died abruptly. She wasn't so much concerned with the fact that people were making millions off her game and she was getting nothing. She mostly just wanted credit for the game's creation to be properly attributed to her, so she went to the press about it. In the end, all of her complaints to Parker Brothers and beyond for them not giving her credit for the invention of Monopoly went largely ignored. In a later deposition, Barton even went so far as to call the landlord landlord's game basically worthless to his company. Barker Brothers did, however, shut her up by agreeing to purchase and sell 2 other games of hers, Bargain Day and King's Men, neither of which they ever did much with, and likewise were reportedly purchased for a paltry sum. They also briefly manufactured the landlord's game as a bit of a token effort, but never really bothered marketing it much, and it soon disappeared from the few shelves that it had been put on. In 1948, Maggie died, and the truth about the origin of Monopoly very nearly died with her, as the official company line has long held that Darrow invented the game. Things changed in 1973 when Parker Brothers became engaged in a legal battle with Professor Ralph Anspach over his anti-monopoly game. During the legal tussle, Anspach and his lawyers uncovered Maggie's patents. The real story of the origin of Monopoly slowly unfolded from there, though it's still widely claimed today that Darrow was the sole inventor of the game, despite all the evidence to the contrary. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below.
Nice. Monopoly, yeah, it is based, because you get to realize like what you get to realize the problems with capitalism. It is by no accident that Monopoly games end up with someone owning everything and then everyone flipping the table. Kind of interesting. So how would a non-capitalist game of Monopoly play out? It wouldn't be Monopoly. I guess people would have more money. Did you see Victoria 3 players are mad because communism is too OP? Yeah, I saw that. That was a good meme. Essentially, you wouldn't like end up with all the properties. The money would be redistributed better, so that everybody can keep playing. Look at this cat. She is literally putting her head on my hand and is expecting me to hold it, while purring up a storm. Look at her, chat. Monopoly criticizes capitalism as a zero-sum game. True. Cats are the real dominating class. True. Alright, folks. For future reference, Trump wants a digital bill of rights, again with Section 230 nonsense. Yeah, I don't know. Unless that Bill of Rights like attempts to actually protect people's information and whatnot, I don't know. I don't exactly trust conservatives with that. Well, let's do a really quick, good, feel-good story. TLDR, like this is just gonna take like 5 seconds. Governor Kathy Hochul signed legislation that will ban the sale of certain animals at retail pet stores in the state. It aims to end puppy mill to pet store pipeline and stop abusive breeders by banning the sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits at retail pet stores. Under the new law, which will take effect in 2024, pet stores will also be allowed to charge shelters for rent to use their space for adoptions. So, hey, this is good. This is good. Dogs, cats, and rabbits across New York deserve loving homes and humane treatment. I'm proud to sign this legislation, which will make meaningful steps to cut down harsh treatment and protect welfare of animals across the state. Yeah, definitely a good thing. This should be across the board. This should be across the board. This shit's fucked up. Puppy mills are fucked up. According to a news release from the governor's office, the law is aims to prevent the buying and selling of animals from large-scale abusive breeders that lack proper veterinary care, food, and socialization. Nice. Cool. This one also will take probably like 5 seconds. Yeah, they are. They really are. This one doesn't require that much. Men convicted of supporting Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot given lengthy prison sentence. Conservative domestic terrorists are now going to have to suffer the consequences. I still don't understand why people want to want breeds. Just give me a mutt who needs a home. True. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you, Undying Fan Magic City Murals, for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you. A judge on Thursday handed down the longest prison term so far in the plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer, sentencing 3 men who forged an early alliance with the leader of the scheme before the FBI broke it up in 2020. Pete Musico, whatever, was sentenced to a minimum of 12 years in prison, followed by his son-in-law. Hey, oi, stop trying to sell me jackets. Sentenced to a minimum of 12 years in prison, followed by his son-in-law, Joe Morrison, 10 years, and Paul Belair at 7. Oh, look, the bot attack. There it goes. How do I ban this thing? Why can't I ban? Oh, here we go. Block. Block. And then we can just remove these. Boop. Boop. There we go. Nothing funnier than crying militiamen. True. There we go. Okay. They did not have a direct role in the conspiracy, but were members of a paramilitary group that trained with Adam Fox, who faces a possible life sentence in a separate case in federal court. The trio convicted in October for providing material to support for a terrorist act, which carries a maximum of 20 years and 2 other crimes. Those are like real sentences. Oh yeah, no, this is serious. Yeah, this was serious. Hold on, folks. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, folks. The cat needed to get out. Why can't the rich people get real sentences too? Because they're rich. Speaking in a recorded video, Whitmer urged Jackson County Judge Wilson to impose a sentence that meets the gravity of the damage they have done to our democracy. Yeah, like these conservative, like domestic terrorists, face the music. Which is like why I ask to CFC why would you want to even be even remotely close to anything like this? Because this is where it leads. Shifting gears, U.S. Africa Summit. Joe Biden says U.S. is all in on Africa's future. The U.S. is all in on Africa's future, Biden told the 49 African leaders attending the Washington, D.C. meeting. It is the first such gathering hosted by Washington for 8 years. The summit is seen as a U.S. attempt to reassert its influence in Africa to counter Chinese involvement. It also comes after Trump's 4-year tenure in office, during which he alienated numerous African leaders with policy decisions and insulting comments. No surprises there. Mr. Biden struck a very different tone to his predecessor, speaking optimistically of the improved links with Africa and telling the gathering that when Africa succeeds, the U.S. succeeds. Quite frankly, the whole world succeeds as well. He said the crisis facing the world today needed African leadership, ideas and innovations, and promises to build on the vital investments in Africa made by previous U.S. administrations. To that end, ahead of the 3-day summit, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. would commit $55 billion to Africa over the next 3 years. Discussions at the summit have focused on building on already existing programs, including Prosper Africa, a U.S. government initiative to increase two-way trade between African nations and the U.S., launched in 2018, Clinton-era Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which provides African apparel manufacturers preferential access to the U.S. market, the Power of Africa initiative, launched by President Obama to connect millions of Africans to the grid, among others. But the success of such programs has been slow to realize. Africa only accounts for just 1% of U.S. foreign trade, which is dominated by petroleum imports from Nigeria and Angola. In his address on Wednesday, the U.S. president spoke about $500 million investment to reduce transfer costs at a key African port in Benin. He also mentioned $350 million that would be spent on boosting the digital economy and $15 billion worth of deals that have been struck at the U.S.-Africa Business Forum. I mean, like, one thing that I really would have liked to see is, I think you really need uBlock Origin browser. Yeah, I know. Your chat keeps like telling me about this. I think somebody else mentioned it, or some kind of ad blocker. It's just become like part of it. I'm down for foreign spending in the developing world, but there's like weird colonial exploitive aspect to Chinese and American investments in Africa, and I hope there are safeguards in place. Yeah, I was gonna mention like there's no like, one of the things that like are missing from this conversation is the climate crisis. Like, I mean, I would love to see like a bunch of investment to help as many nations as possible, regardless. As many nations as possible. And like, it seems to me like the African continent is like ground zero, one of the ground zeros for climate change, and yet there seems to be no mention to provide monetary assistance to help them not rely on fossil fuels. And well, the African nations have asked for help for a while now. It just feels like they're trying to out-China China. Yeah, that's the idea. In fact, they mention it, I think. They mentioned it at the beginning. To counter Chinese involvement. Dude, I don't have $1,000 to buy guitars, okay? Although they're very nice. And I would like one of these. But that's neither here nor there. I was in the shower? Yeah, no worries. No worries. Yeah, like that's exactly the underlying goal here, I think. LDTR, all right? Is this like the Van Halen version? LTD. They got you triggering your guitar lust? Yeah, I know. They know. Okay? The advertising algorithm knows that I play guitar. So now it's trying to feed me this kind of stuff. It's a replica of Eddie's old mane. Gotcha. These look like Les Pauls. But they're not. LTD. Alright, we've got one more. No, stop it. Ads are a service for you that companies provide. Without ads, you wouldn't know how much these products can help you. They just want to help. True, I'm sorry. You know what? Maybe I should be, more sympathetic. You're right, Hambless. You're right. They're just trying to help me in my consumerist needs, in my consumption needs, right? They just want to direct me to the right product and make sure I spend money. Yes. They're just trying to help. They're Les Paul copies just outside the copyright. Yep. Let's talk about this. Former police officer, Texas police officer, found guilty of manslaughter for the shooting death of Atiana Jefferson in her home. Cool. That's a nice meme. First of all, before I even begin this story, I would like to just kind of point out that it's nice to see some fucking accountability. A former Fort Worth, Texas police officer was found guilty of manslaughter in the 2019 shooting of 28-year-old Atiana Jefferson in her home. Dean, whose wife, faces up to 20 years in prison for conviction. Jefferson was black. He had pleaded not guilty to murder, a charge which carried a possible sentence of 5 to 99 years. Jurors were instructed on Wednesday to consider the lesser included offense of manslaughter. The sentencing phase begins on Friday. Dean, in a gray suit, showed no emotion as the verdict was read. Members of Jefferson family was expressionless in the courtroom as a judge announced the verdict. The WFAA reported there was no immediate comment from family members. We're glad there was a guilty verdict, and that's progress, said Reverend Crystal Bates, a minister and activist. But there's so much work to be done. How he is sentenced is going to send a message not only to him, but other law enforcement to not be so trigger-happy when you see somebody of color. Defense attorney said Dean fired in self-defense. Okay, yeah, check this story out. Self-defense, but prosecutors argued there was no evidence he saw a gun in the woman's hand before firing through. If this kid wasn't there as a primary witness, guaranteed, this fucker would have gotten away with it. Guaranteed. Defense attorney said he fired in self-defense when he saw a gun before firing through a bedroom window. Chat. Somehow, this dude got super awesome special vision that allowed him to see a gun in her hand through a bedroom window, and then had the audacity to attempt to claim it was self-defense. Yeah, he had wall hacks. Jesus Christ. Jefferson's 11-year-old nephew was with her at the time, which also, to point out, this fucker could have killed him too. Who was with her at the time, and Dean's police partner, who responded with him to what they believed was a burglary, were the primary witness to the shooting and testified at a trial. Dean took the stand and said he fired at Jefferson because she pointed a gun at him through a bedroom window, apparently. The verdict comes for more than 3 years after the deadly encounter, in which Dean and his partner responded to Jefferson's house around 2:25 a.m. They arrived at her house after a neighbor called a non-emergency police line to report that her doors were open. That's wild. Trial testimony, which touched on a fraught issue of race, police violence, gun rights, and body camera footage, began on December 5th. The verdict was announced after jurors deliberated for more than 13 hours. The manslaughter conviction of a police officer who was on duty is a first in Tarrant County. Wow. Is a first? Jesus. Jurors got the case on Wednesday afternoon following the closing arguments in which the state portrayed Dean as a power-hungry former cop whose preconceived notions about the neighborhood where Jefferson lived tainted his conduct at the night of the shooting. Not only that, like the lies. The defense countered that Dean fired his weapon in self-defense while fearing for his life in what attorneys said was a tragic accident but not a criminal act. Again, he feared for his life by seeing a gun through a bedroom window. Makes sense. Burglars usually stick around to watch TV. True, I saw it in a commercial once. They always fear for their lives because they believe their lives are worth more. It's all about supremacy. Yeah, it's all about supremacy. And that aspect right there comes from that mentality that that they're ingrained with. Remember, we saw that like police training video in Utah, I want to say, and like the lady cop literally told the guy like to put his hands up as she was like simulating shooting him, and like when they asked like why she shot, and it's like, well, he didn't listen, or what was that what she said, like, oh, he didn't comply, or he was a threat. And like the video is just her of like the simulation of the dude coming forward, and she's going, stop, as she's like firing the pretend like simulation. Yeah, okay. Dean was defense countered that Dean fired his weapon in self-defense while fearing for his life. Dean resigned a few days afterwards and arrested and charged with the killing of Jefferson. If you can't feel safe in your own home, where can you feel safe? When you think about your house, you think about safety. It's where you go to retreat and get away from the world. Dean, the prosecutor, said he had a tremendous amount of power when he put on his uniform. When you put on that badge and you put on the uniform, you said you're going to serve and protect us all. That means her too. Not anymore. That's not exactly what that means. Unfortunately, that's not what police do. And the fourth word to police department, those officers that do serve and protect don't have those preconceived notions, that did a thorough investigation in this case, are ashamed that they ever called somebody like him a brother in blue. Okay. That defense attorney told jurors Dean feared for his life as he peered through the bedroom window. Wait. How does that make sense? So how can you fear for your life when you're the one peering in through a bedroom window? Explain that one to me. But explain it to me like I'm 5. Because like in this scenario, if you're peering through somebody in a bedroom window, you have the option of like getting away if you see something dangerous. How does this make sense in any world where you would fear for your life by peering through a window? But explain that to me like I'm 5. She had a right to shoot him peering in. I mean, if you, I think in certain areas, like legally, if someone's, creeping around and they're not supposed to, the castle doctrine, I don't know if that's legal. If like you peering in, I don't know. The state cannot prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that this was not self-defense. It's a tragic but not an offense under the state of Texas. Holding his hands in the air to show the size of the gun Dean claimed he saw through the bedroom window, Gill told the jury what is immediately more necessary than having a handgun stuck in your face. While peering through the bedroom window? If you believe that Aaron was legitimately defending a third person and reasonably defending a person, or if you had a reasonable doubt about whether he was doing such a thing, then you are to acquit Aaron. If you don't have to agree that it was self-defense or defense of a third person. You have to decide in your mind whether that he reasonably believed that he was doing one of those things. Dean testified on Monday that he fired at Jefferson because she had pointed a gun at him. As I started to get that second phrase out, "Show me your hands," I saw a silhouette. The former officer said I was looking down at the barrel of a gun. When I saw the barrel of the gun pointed at me, I fired a single shot from my duty weapon. Wait. Through a window? Through a window? X the doubt? Press X to doubt? This sounds made up. Evening, y'all. Hey, Miss Nixa. Right, the barrel of gun or silhouette, which is it? Yeah, and like, again, through a window? Explain. Dean said he had his weapon out because he believed... Wait. Okay, he believed that the home was in the midst of being robbed. But wasn't the non-emergency number dialed? So... He fired at her through the window because we're taught to meet deadly force with deadly force. We're not taught that we have to wait. Holy shit. If that isn't like a tacit admission to what the mentality is here, Jesus Christ. The dispatcher didn't tell them anything? Yeah, but the report was from a non-emergency number. If it was an emergency where somebody was like doing an armed robbery, you wouldn't dial the non-emergency number. The neighbor called like a checkup, like, hey, you know, I saw the door open, like just kind of check it out. That's it. It was his reflection? Oh, that would make sense. That would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense. In cross-examination, however, Dean admitted many of his actions that night were bad police work. Yeah, you know, fucking murdering somebody through a window. Yeah, I think that would qualify under bad police work. Sure, dude. Yeah, whatever. Without firing, seeing her hands and what was behind her, failing to tell his partner he saw a gun, and rushing into a home without fully ensuring it was safe. You've got another fellow officer from the Fort Worth Police Department entering a home which you had determined to be a burglary in process with a possible armed assailant. And you didn't think to tell your partner there's a gun inside? No. Because there wasn't. You didn't think to tell her, hey, I saw somebody with a gun? No. They're literally afraid of their own shadow. Yeah, apparently, Dean's testimony is pivotal, which in the trial, which also featured body cam footage of the shooting and testimony from the primary witness, which is Dean's police partner and Jefferson's 11-year-old nephew. On the stand, Dean described the silhouette as he saw being bent over facing the window with an upper arm movement. He grew emotional as he spoke about the moment he shot Jefferson. I observed the person we now know as Miss Jefferson. I heard her scream and saw her fall like this, and I knew that I had shot that person. Yeah, bad police work. Sure, dude. He said that after firing the shot, he tried opening the window to render aid, but couldn't get it open, so they ran around the front door and entered the home. They said the front door was open. Okay. He and Darch went into the bedroom and saw a child there. I'm thinking, who brings a kid into a burglary? Because it wasn't. Nobody said anything about a burglary. The call was from a neighbor because they saw the door open. That's why the neighbor called the non-emergency option number. And the reason why that happened was because they burned hamburgers. You know, they were playing video games. Fucking video games, dude. Damn. She said she believed the home was being burglarized because the two doors were open and lights on were in the area, cabinets were wide open, and things were strewn in the kitchen area. The partner testified that she thought it was a burglary in progress, apparently, but the neighbor who called the cops didn't say that. They just wanted to make sure, like, everything was okay because they saw the door open. That doesn't mean that there's a if you call the cops and you say, hey, just, check it out, that doesn't mean there's a burglary in progress, because if not, you would have just said, hey, there's a fucking burglary in progress, or I think that there is, because something's not right. But yeah, police are not picking the sharpest. Yeah, that's pretty that's pretty, that's pretty apparent. I chill with my front door open a lot. Well, if you do that normally, then I guess nobody's gonna, say anything. But apparently this neighbor decided that she was gonna call the cops because she thought that something was off, and that's why. Yeah, just don't call the cops, not emergency or otherwise. Yep. Unfreaking real, dude. They were playing freaking video games. That's why I didn't hear anything. That's why they didn't hear anything. They were playing video games. They didn't hear the cops come up. They didn't hear the cops come up, nor did they hear if he even said anything. If he even said put your hands up or whatever the fuck he said. Of course not. They didn't hear anything. She didn't hear anything. They were playing fucking video games. Unreal. Another case of mind your own business. Yep. Yeah, open doors and playing video games. Not allowed. Right to manslaughter verdict is beyond frustrating, but at least we're seeing some convictions now. Yeah, like, that's the silver lining, accountability. I had a guy going wild on my street and blocking my gate with his car, and I just decided to stay home because if I had called them, they might just shoot him. Yeah, like, this is wild. Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. Maybe he was just having a bad day, divorce or something. Yeah. Yeah, you never know. But video games and your front door open. You lose the game of Simon Says. That's just wild to me. Unfucking real. Unfreaking real. All right, folks. It is about to be 8 o'clock. I've way past my my dinner. Folks, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. A lot of you here have joined, and if you guys enjoy the content and want to throw us a little follow, feel free. You get some free emotes, including Bakita the cat, who was here earlier. Also, if you guys enjoy the content, and you guys want to help us out even more, and it doesn't involve any type of money, go on over to the YouTube channel. Click the big red subscribe button. It really does help us out. Spread the word far and wide for those of you that enjoy the content. Bring a friend. We're here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for the stream. Go get your grub and go eat. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Globus, thank you for the raid. I appreciate that. Back-to-back raids. I appreciate that. Levelhead also with a massive raid as well. And Troma with a tier 1 subscription. Thank you so much for the biddies as well. Alio, to all the new followers as well. Undyne, Magic City as well for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes the stream go. Thank you, Michael Hassler. I appreciate that. Thank you, mods, as well. I think Mono was here earlier as well. And spread it forward. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you. Follow all the wonderful folks in chat that have the little diamond next to them. Miss Nixa, Carpe Pax, Globus, and Levelhead. All right, go show some support to all these wonderful folks. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks for the stream, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. I appreciate that. Echo Wrestle Dragon, thank you for stopping by. Swaggy, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thank you guys all. You guys are what makes this stream go. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Wait, no, today's Thursday, isn't it? No. Yeah. Yeah, today's Thursday. I'm sorry. Monday. Sheesh. Hi. That's how you know I'm hungry. No Sunday stream? Maybe. I'll make an announcement on the Discord if I can. Oh, perfect. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out. Thank you. Have a good weekend. You have a good weekend. Thank you, Alio. Yes, also follow twitch.tv/Alio. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya. Hey, Alt Miss Frizzle, thank you for hanging out in chat. I'm sorry, I didn't say hi to you. Thank you. See ya.